Divorce.
Debt, divorce, diamonds, death, and diapers.
There we go. I've had people who've bought, like, quote, their forever home. Here comes a kid. Oh, here comes a second. And all of a sudden they're like, okay, I'm not sharing a bathroom for all eternity with my child.
Chances are, if you're getting a divorce and you own a home, it will be in a divorce decree what happens to that house.
So yeah, so the next D is which?
Debt.
Debt.
Ha! Oops.
All right, guys, this is welcome back to Millennium. This is a hot topic. It's actually not a hot topic. I retract that.
Your ears are ringing. I hear it all the time.
I retract that statement. This was a really hot topic for Jen about 3 days ago because she, for the first time, heard about the 5 Ds of real estate. Would you like to, without looking, you have to look straight into the camera. Can you tell me what the 5 Ds of?
He's saying this like I'm like, oh, here's an earth-shattering idea. I
was
literally said,
like,
oh, here's a cool one.
No. It was kind of like that, guys. It was. But without looking at your laptop, can you tell me the 5 Ds?
I literally put it on our topic sheet. And he said, oh, who put this? I said, oh, I put it on there. I thought it would be a good topic.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway,
talk
about the 5 Ds.
Stop stalling. What are they?
Debt, divorce, debt, divorce, diamonds, death, and diapers.
There we go.
Not in that order, but what do these all have in common? They are all reasons that people move.
That's right.
That's right.
And that's right. No, and hey, listen, you asked me to take the lead on this topic.
Go ahead.
Okay, let's do it. So these are considered the must moves. These are the reasons why people, these are like the main
life events
drivers for people. So these are the main drivers that historically people will move. They're not necessarily they have to move. Like somebody passes away and nobody wants the house, like you have to sell. Somebody gets engaged though, like, do they have to move? No, but that's usually part of.
It's when the conversation is coming up.
It's when the conversation comes up. You have more kids. Like my client who has have a 4th kid coming on the way. We bought that house not really expecting a 4th.
As if being outnumbered by 1 wasn't enough. You're gonna double your army.
They're perfect for it though. They're like they embrace the chaos. They're like it's fun. It's going to be fine. It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be fine.
They're both well suited for it. They have a lot of family support, that kind of thing. But anyway, but diapers certainly is a motivator. And it's like I've had people who've bought, like, quote, their forever home. Here comes a kid. Oh, here comes a second. And all of a sudden they're like, okay, I'm not sharing a bathroom for all eternity with my child. This is it. I'm not doing it.
It was okay for a little bit.
It was okay. It was cute. We had a little rubber tub and
I say it's okay until they're beyond potty training. Like, potty training has been done and now it is like, they're getting themselves ready. There's toothpaste all over the sink. Please let me know in the comments if your kids, and I mean probably ages of probably 4 to 10. Mm-hmm. If your countertop is now just covered in toothpaste for all of eternity, I would love to know.
You don't even need to go to the comments, Jen.
I live in it, but I just wanted to make sure I'm not.
I live in it too.
Okay. So
it is one of the main things that I do before we have our cleaners, or we have cleaners come in every once in a while just to do a deep clean. That's like one of the number one things is scraping the toothpaste off of it's also in the drain.
It's on the carpet. It's on the tile. It's on the cabinets. It's on the walls. I'm like, what are you doing, child?
It's probably the mothering. The motherly influence has a direct correlation with toothpaste etiquette.
It ain't in my bedroom. Okay, and then the one that nobody really likes to talk about is divorce.
Divorce. Yep.
Which honestly, we have a lot of topics for it. It's kind of sad and it's a little morbid, but it's very legitimate. And with the divorce rate in America, you would think that we talk about it more because.
Do you know what the divorce rate is in America?
Does it have a 5 in front of it?
Depending on the year, it's right about 50%.
I was going to say.
Depending on the year, sometimes it's 52, sometimes 48.
50 shot, it works. So far, I'm beating the statistics by just not even getting into that. Yeah. No, I mean, because chances are, if you're getting a divorce and you own a home, it will be in a divorce decree what happens to that house. Yeah. So chances are, you either have to sell it, So you're going to sell it, then there be two buys. Maybe somebody's going to rent, but regardless, there's going to be a real estate transaction involved in divorce.
Yeah. So let's take these one by one.
Yes.
Let's talk about happy all the way down to the saddest.
Okay.
Okay. So happiest is diamond or diaper, depending on which one. And then obviously death is the most morbid and final. And
We'll end on a high note with death.
you know what? That's an excellent point. Let's start with the bad first. That's actually a really decent
All right.
point.
So death.
Death.
Estate sales.
Estate sales.
Yes.
Yeah. So estate sales, death, and divorce are linked in one way. Is that usually you're dealing with with like an attorney, because it is a really a legal function. There's something called probate, which is the process of taking someone's estate after their death and basically disseminating assets and deciding on what happens to those assets. Usually a house is involved, or other considerations. So there are a lot of realtors out there who've made very good businesses on just doing probate and doing estate sales, which is essentially where someone has passed and there is somebody through their will has been assigned to sell the house.
So I want to take this time to also encourage anybody, if you own real estate or you have assets, put together your will, because if your wishes are not very clearly documented before you pass, and your loved ones are going to have to figure out what happens after that probate process is going to be brutal.
Yeah, and it can take forever. And
Yes.
so now that has a couple implications. One is the fact that you could wait a very long time to receive any assets. The other thing is that asset, the house, can sit, and when a house sits empty, it is exhausting taking care of it. You're paying insurance and taxes on it. You might still be servicing a mortgage on it. And also, houses just deteriorate.
The longer you just don't use a house, the longer it just sits. Like water's not moving, like toilets aren't flushing, like who knows what's going to happen.
And that
winter
will
happens,
and that will go from an appreciating asset to a depreciating asset. So it's really important when in death, and Jen's advice is very sound, is getting all of your affairs. And we know that this is a podcast for Gen Zers, millennials, younger people, but here's the thing, is that 9 times out of 10 in an estate sale, we're dealing with younger people. We're dealing with 40-year-olds whose parents have passed away, or their grandparents have left them the house and they don't know what to do, that type of thing. So,
well, and it's like, and there's also to say, like, if say a grandparent wants to give you the house, do you purchase it before? I mean, this is such a depressing way to put it, but very realistic. Do they sell it to you while they're still alive, or do they put it in a trust?
yeah.
For you to inherit. I mean, there's just different ways about it. That's what you go to an attorney for. We do not give legal advice. But also there's the fact that, somebody passes, there's probate. Then there's, say it's left to, the estate is, being left to siblings, like group of siblings. For the love of God, do your best to get on the same page and do not get so blinded by money that it makes things difficult, because that's all it's going to do. When it goes into like making decisions, you're gonna have a power of attorney and somebody who has the final say. But I have seen things get so complicated and hold so many things up, where ultimately they end up getting less money in the end and takes longer to get to it, because you're just not letting the process roll the way it's supposed to, and people are just arguing and complaining and just pushing buttons.
I sold a house for 13 grandkids, but. I thanked my client, because my client was one of them, and I thank my client like profusely, like, thank you so much for just being. She was very, very. Now I think most of the grandkids were pretty agreeable, but she just didn't. She just took control of the whole thing.
And that's the thing that people understand too, is when it's going to probate and it's being left to multiple people, is they all have to agree.
Well, listen,
if
they have a will, that doesn't happen, and any attorney worth their salt is going to make it where there's at least an executor, someone to handle the affairs and wrap up the estate, and usually that executor is going to be the one that the realtor talks to. So, but no, it absolutely.
That's the first question that I ask whenever I'm dealing with an estate. I've had a few estate sales, and the first one is, are you the executor? Do you have that in writing? May I see it?
Yeah.
Because I know I had one where there were 6 cousins that were handling the estate of an aunt who had no children. and
Nope.
So the thing is, they all had to agree to put my client as power of attorney, and there was like one signature, like there's one cousin that was like MIA that nobody could track down or find, and they needed that signature in order for her to be power of attorney and be able to say like, yes, she can make the decisions for this process. And they did end up tracking this cousin down, did find them, and did sign it over. Unfortunately, from there, she was like, the rest of them don't really care. And I'm like, I love that.
Yeah, no. It's definitely, it takes all shapes and sizes. And even if things are copacetic when the person's living, there's situations where the deceased has made promises. They've said, well, technically this, but I'm going to call my attorney and let them know that like, I'm going to make this change. They never do, like all that stuff. So I actually love working with estate sales. I love working with estate sales because, but when they're organized, when they're disorganized, they're just like any other transaction. They're a freaking nightmare. So it's a good idea to get those affairs in order. But let's move on to divorce. Divorce is a little bit more of something that I have dealt with just because of my age. I'm in my mid 40s. That's usually like kids come, and then there's like should I stay or should I go dynamic.
Should I stay or should I go?
That's it. That's it, Jen. Exactly.
They wrote that about divorce.
Yes. Yeah. So, do they, and a lot of times it comes down to kids. Like you have a 10, 11-year-old and it's like, do I want to stick it out, wait till after the kids are out of the house, or do I want to stay? Divorce is still a legal function. You're probably going to be dealing with the same type of an attorney, because family law really is like divorce and estates, but not always. The difference between divorce and estate is that it pops up. Death can pop up, but usually there's not a legal mechanism to decide on what happens when, unless there's a prenuptial agreement. And even then, when you take possession of real estate, you take it by tenancy by entirety, which is just a fancy way of saying you both own it. Even in the event of death, the person inherits your portion. So divorce can be really easy, and it's just like any other transaction. It can be really tough.
It's either as easy or hard as you make it.
Yeah, and our other partner and I sat in a dining room trying to broker a solution. They own this rather expensive home, and we were unsuccessful. They just did not have the ability to come to terms on what they should do logistically. The parents lived in the home, and so there was a lot of complications.
What was their biggest disagreement?
Their biggest disagreement was about displacing these parents. So the other thing is one thought that they could afford to live there on their own and buy out the other person, but then the other one's like, well, no, I don't want that. I want to just be done, and I don't want to be tied to anything. And so there was some mechanics that were that needed to be mulled over, and it really just kind of was like, they weren't ready to have a conversation about selling the property yet. They hadn't really done the hard work of what the beginning stages of a divorce is, which is really
for these first two,
brokering a full solution.
It takes a much higher level of sensitivity to the situations. They're way more emotionally involved. Chances, there can be some resentments they have to get through, and a lot of psychology that you have to work through with the divorce sales. So fortunately, I haven't had to do any divorce sales yet.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm kind of the age where that is more prevalent. So the next D is which?
Diapers.
No, that's happy.
I think we're getting to happy.
No, diapers. Debt.
Ha! Oops.
Debt.
I don't know. It depends who you're asking. It can be subjective, but
no, it's a must move. Somebody, debt really just stands for you can't pay your mortgage anymore.
Yeah.
Can't handle the finances. That can be extremely distressed situation. Luckily, in this area of the country, we do not deal with that quite as much. Most people still have their jobs and have so much equity that they can do things to alleviate their financial situation. Certainly back during the Great Recession, or what they call the GFC, the Great Financial Crisis, that was a bigger thing. I think that debt will be more of a feature in other parts of the country. If you are curious about that comment, go back and listen to our Florida versus and Texas. By the way, in Texas, I heard I have a a realtor friend whose client his insurance just went from $2,800 a year to $8,800 a year.
That is absolutely disgusting.
Yeah. So he lives right around Houston.
Talk about debt.
Talk about debt. No, but so financial distress is a big one. That is also a divorce and is different than debt in one major way, is that a lot of times the one party doesn't know about the problem. Like a divorce is usually like, okay, we decided to get divorced. We need to decide on what we're going to do. A lot of times I'll get calls from just spouses being like, I don't know what to do. I need can you get me in touch with credit people, debt consolidation people? If you need help with credit, we have some great episodes in the past about that. We have a great episode about debt. Amber Duncan is awesome. It's a really hard situation because people's mindset about money, people falling out of love is obviously a big thing.
I was going to say that what I think you're going to say is like my biggest piece of advice as far as this debt category is take your ego out of it. Take your shame out of it. It is what it is. You are where you are. Like, acknowledge it for what it is. You see it, it's debt before it spirals, because it's only going to get worse. That goes to ignore it.
That goes doubly for you guys.
Yeah. So like, I mean, if you're at the point, if you let it go to the point where you are going to lose your house over it, like you don't have to get to that point. You can talk to somebody like a debt specialist. Like I said, we can link our episode to Amber Duncan here too, where we talk a lot about this. Talk to somebody before it gets to this point and try to save it ahead of time. If you are at that point, again, let your ego go and listen to your agent. You might need to sell your house for less than you think. You might not walk away with a profit at all, but they might be able to save you from a foreclosure on your record. So there's a lot of pride and ego that gets hurt in this, but you need to just let that go, let that barrier down, and just protect
yourself and your family.
Yeah. Because I mean, that's the one thing that's going to absolutely dig you deeper is holding on to that.
Yep. And I would agree with that. And getting first step is to making sure that both parties, if you are married, are understanding of what's going on. That's a lot of times one of the spouses will suffer in silence. And that's never good, because eventually you're going to have to disclose what's happening if you're falling behind on payments. I think if the market and things kind of get a little harder in terms of keeping jobs, people start, like, we see layoffs, we see certain things. It's obviously going to become more prevalent, but this can happen on a case by case basis. Somebody who's got a really great job and he just bought a house, and they've got a really high payment and the cash flow just isn't there. That's a good conversation to have with somebody that you trust, like your real estate agent, to go back to them and say, hey, listen, I lost my job. Like I think I was telling you, I had a really great client. Now, she found another job, but she just unexpectedly was laid off like 3 weeks after she bought a house. And, that was a really tough month or two, because she was trying to find the right job. She did end up landing another job, but there's going to be people who are going to lose their job and they're not going to be able to find another one, or they're getting replaced by AI, or they're doing something where they're not going to be able to just pick up where they left off. The calling your realtor is super important, because you can get out ahead of it.
Or going into retirement, not having as much saved as you thought. And then, we're dealing with something similar right now. And then them needing to downsize because the payments that are going out the door every month are just surpassing what they can actually feasibly afford.
That's right.
Or running out of money and running out of time.
And running out of money. And especially you add in some health issues and it gets really bad. And that's where debt can really pile up as well. So it's very, very expensive to be sick in the United States. So
got that right.
The next thing is diapers and diamonds. So why don't you take one of these?
Diapers. Okay. We've had, there's so many episodes we can link to this episode. Good God. Our editor's gonna have a great time adding all these in the show notes. Just add our whole catalog at this point. We had Brian and Sam Cannon on, and they told their story about what got them to move. They had their kid. They were living in a condo, stepped on a toy one too many times. And boy, God, am I getting close to that too. And we're just like, I'm done. We need a bigger house. We can't do this anymore. So, kids, I've always said, I think that my house right now, I have like an 1,100 square foot rancher, is perfect for me and my son and my cat. I would outgrow my home with another human, another kid. Okay, that's a human too. A husband, another child, and a dog. I would probably start outgrowing my house, and we would be on top of each other. Also, because I don't have my basement finished, but and so if I had all of that, I'd be like, it's time to go. I love my house. I love my neighborhood, but that would push me to say, we need more room. These kids need their own space.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's pretty as simple as that.
Yeah,
or like, you know, you've had your condo. It has just been like you and your hubby and your little like 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom condo. And like, it's been great. But then you realize, I mean, we had clients like this too. They're coming on their second kid and they were in the room with them, having to share the room with the baby. And they were like, okay, these kids need their own rooms now. Like, it's time to upsize. Laura and AJ.
Yeah.
So again, we have an interview with them too. I don't know if it came out yet.
It did not. I
Okay.
think it's slated for next month.
Okay. So, but yeah, so, you know, what worked before may not keep working after the baby comes. If you think you have this beautiful aesthetic for your baby with all those like earthy tones and pale and pastels, your house is about to get junked up with a bunch of really, really bright colors, the reds, the yellows, the greens, the blues, the loud toys.
And the damn toothpaste.
And the damn toothpaste, and like you need room for all that stuff to go. So yeah,
the number one complaint I get on the diaper side is, honey, I'm not going to share my bathroom with these kids. And a lot of times it's not even a condo. It's like a row home, or it's like a little Cape Cod, or it's something like you've got 2 bathrooms, which is clutch.
Yeah.
You did like the second bathroom and not the second toilet. I'm talking about the second bathroom is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
That is an entirely separate area that the parents don't necessarily even need to go into until they have to start scraping the toothpaste off the counter.
I was catching up with a friend of mine. He is so I helped renovate his house, and when he had first purchased it, and it's a beautiful home, like absolutely beautiful, and I love it. I did such a good job. He's living there with his wife. Now they have 2 kids, and I forgot the part where he only has 1 full bathroom. And I was like, well, why would you ever move from that? Like, I love your house. Your house is great. Like, I would imagine you like freaking die in that house. It's like, yeah, well, even though this 1 bathroom is very nice, it's 1 bathroom, and these kids are getting bigger. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I get that.
Yeah, so, I mean, like, I have a 13-year-old. I mean, are you kidding? She has her own bathroom. There's no way. I mean, it's 45-minute showers and like all kinds of stuff. And there is a value that you need to place on it. And keep in mind that, yes, you can upsize into something else. And yes, it's more expensive, but that will be a much more attractive thing to always go and resell, because there's always going to be people, as long as people are having kids, that is always going to be something people want to do.
I grew up with, no, actually, I was about to say I grew up with 1 bathroom. Nope. I think my dad very quickly realized that growing up with 1 bathroom is going to be a problem.
Did you have one in your basement?
We did, but my early years, no, it wasn't.
Yeah.
So it was there, but it was like just stuff packed in there. It was like storage, and I don't know. It was always just like this hole in the wall part of my basement with just stuff crammed in there. And I guess at one point my dad was like over it, and that stuff got cleared out. I was like, well, there's a shower back there.
Yeah.
And then they finished it, and it was like my mom's bathroom. I just remember fighting with my sister for the bathroom upstairs. Well, she took like
and that's exactly why people when you have kids, and I know it's like, you know, you don't think about it right away, but that is a big driver, is upsizing. And we specialize in that aspect of selling your original home and getting you into something bigger that you can enjoy for years. And then the final one, diamonds. We've actually kind of gone in reversed chronology, with debt being the wild card. We went from death to divorce to debt, babies. I mean, not always, but a lot of times.
I think that's pretty good order. Diamonds. So getting engaged. This is where just these conversations happen. I mean, you have life changes happening. If you're engaged, you know, you may have discussed like buying a house together when you were dating. You may have had people say like, maybe you should, maybe you shouldn't. You guys aren't actually married. But now you're engaged. So now you're heading up to the altar, and it's like, well, do we just buy our house now? You have your wedding that's happening. So like there's some big financial pieces that are coming out right now, but this is where your conversations are starting. We talked to Ned and Eleanor, Nate and Eliza.
Can we call them by their real name now?
Now we can, because we interviewed them and they told their own story. I like just calling them Ned and Eleanor, but so again, check back for their episode. I think it comes out when we're recording this week, but it should be out.
Don't forget to like and subscribe
to all of them. But no, so I think they just got married or were engaged, whatever. It was,
no, they were married.
Okay. But had like just spend all the money on the wedding. And, it's like they were on the fence. Like, well, we don't really like have to do it right now. We're not in like a ton of pain to need to, like, we just signed on for a year on our apartment. So like, we don't really like have to, until they found something and then they did. But, it's, even if you don't have to, that's when you're going to start doing it. So you want to talk to somebody, talk to your agent, then talk to a lender, see what the affordability of it is and get that process started. So I know it can be a lot when planning a wedding, like a lot. But I actually just had a client who did the same. They are currently planning their wedding. They get married next month and they just purchased a house. They did it. And actually I was talking to her and she was like, I think she said the wedding process is more stressful than the house buying process.
Yeah, because you've got, it's ego.
You have somebody leading the way.
No, but it's also ego. There's a lot of ego involved with weddings.
Elaborate.
You want everything. Well, people want the day to be perfect. It's very much an outward demonstration of who you are. Your ability.
Some could say the same about your house, though.
Yeah, but are all those people going to be at your house?
I don't know. I mean, we've said in a previous episode, when you buy your house, you want it to be
a
proud
wedding.
to have
A wedding is a demonstration of your socioeconomic status. You're entertaining all the people that you love and care about their opinion in a room for 3 to 4 hours. People have a lot of opinions about whether the DJ is going to be good. There's flower arrangements. There's people are judgy.
The open bar.
It's like is Uncle Ralph going to get trashed? Like at the wedding. Like
I think it's more logistics first.
I think it's the logistics
have
too.
Have I been through this? No. Am I an expert? Absolutely not. Do I have any room to talk on this? Definitely no.
I might have some authority in this, but
you may.
I might have some authorities, but and it's good, but no, the logistics also are a little bit.
Well, I was gonna say because when you're planning a wedding, there's so much more that you have to do yourself.
Yeah,
like that is like your responsibility. Yeah. When you have an agent and you're buying a house, the most that you really have to do, like submit some documents and look at them.
And you both have it, and both have a high financial piece if you're doing it like the
right.
wedding industrial complex requires.
So, but like for the most part, you have somebody in the house buying process guiding you, and kind of having to do like the heavy lifting of like negotiations, forms, the like keeping on track of the progress throughout escrow. Whereas when you're doing a wedding, you're kind of like having to do it all yourself unless you have a wedding planner.
Yeah.
But
so I mean, the whole idea about diamonds is, the American consumer really very much follows a progression of like, and we've talked on this podcast before about the people going out of order.
Yeah.
But it's like, you get married
Screw
and then
the order.
but you get, you get engaged and then you get married and then you buy the house and then you nest and then you have a kid and then, hopefully it's, smooth sailing despite all the toothpaste on the countertops.
Yeah.
And in the end, that is a great time though, believe it or not, from a family, like you need to start thinking about family planning, especially even that early on, especially in the way that the things cost these days is like the financial planner is traditionally, enters your life usually after you own a house, you have a good job, probably after you have kids.
When assets are building.
You have discretionary income, you have investments to actually deploy.
Combining assets.
We've talked in the past about how we very much take a inverse relationship to the consumer. And we want to talk really early with people about that because it's very important for us to know that you are checking a lot of these financial benchmark. Hi, Jane. That you're checking a lot of these boxes because getting a plan in place is the way to set the trajectory for success. So even if you get engaged and you're like, we're going to rent for another 2 years, that's still a great time to reach out to a realtor. The other ones are.
Well, we talked about that in our episode of like when to reach out to a realtor. It's like there is no such thing as too soon. Like if you have the thought about it.
What's the genism? What's the saying?
There's never such thing as too soon, but there is such thing as too late.
That's right.
Thought enters your mind. You know that you guys will buy a house eventually. Just talk to a realtor. I mean, it could be 2 years from now, it could be 3 years from now. Like we will want to do that eventually. Cool.
There's almost never been anyone to regret having that conversation, by the way. It's not about, you being told like you're going to miss out and put like pressure sales or anything like that. It's all about giving good advice. It's all about, and that goes for all these D's. If your parents are declining and they only got another year or two, like this is when you call a realtor. Like you're falling behind, you think you're going to get a new job, but but you're not sure, like that type of thing is a good time to call a realtor. You get pregnant and you still have 5-6 months until the new baby's going to come, and it's going to be a long time until people they're going to be fighting over the bathroom. That's a good time to call. So it's all these types of things where getting out ahead and preparing for these big life events is it's just smart.
Yep. All right.
That's it.
So I think that covers it. All right. If you have not already, go subscribe to the page or to the podcast and make sure that you can like review it or comment it. Just engage in it. We want to keep growing. We want to get the good word out to Philadelphia area and everywhere. So on that note, catch you next week.
See ya.
Bye.